They tell rookies in the Corps that a sniper's job is 90% waiting, 10% killing. They're wrong. It's 100% watching. I lay prone in the jagged skeleton of what used to be an alien city, cheek pressed against the worn leather cheek pad of my rifle. It's an old Earth model, an M82 Barrett, but with enough alien tech grafted onto it that it could shoot the wings off a gnat from orbit. My spotter's scope is long gone. I don't need one. I am my own spotter. Through the glass, I watch the kill zone below. Rubble-strewn streets, collapsed towers leaning on each other like drunks in the gutter. Heat distortions shimmer off the cracked black pavement. Every shadow is wrong here. The twin suns above Targos 7, both shattered in some ancient war, throw slanted, fractured light across the city, like the place is being seen through broken glass. Humanity's not much in the Galactic Corps. We're a minor species, more known for being unpredictable than for any grand technological achievement. But snipers, that's where we excel. No alien patience matches ours. No alien eye reads wind and light the way we do, and when it comes to killing something from so far away it doesn't even know it's dying. We're the apex. I'm the last one left. The others, Harris, Singh, Mbe, are gone. Keir retired or just disappeared without a trace. I've stopped asking which. The last 3 kills I've made haven't been clean. They dropped, sure, the red mist, the silent collapse, but when we recovered the bodies, there weren't bodies at all. Just armor slumped in the dust, its seals unbroken, the insides filled with a kind of black vapor that bled away when you opened the plates. The medics said it was a decomposition reaction to my ammunition. I've used the same rounds for years. I slow my breathing and scan for movement. The streets below are empty, but empty doesn't mean safe. The Vexari are good at hiding, and they're better at baiting. My comms crackle. Command to Longshot. Priority intercept. You're gonna want to hear this. I keep my rifle steady and tap my throat mic. Send it! There's a pause, some static, and then a clipped, alien voice comes through, not translated. Deep layered like it's spoken from a cavern. The words mean nothing to me until the translator finally kicks in. Do not kill the human marksman. Another pause. Take it alive. A cold ripple runs through me. I've been hunted before, that's the job, but never like this, never with orders from their generals. I adjust the scope, searching the ruins for glass glints, muzzle shadows, anything. The fractured sunlight winks back at me from broken windows, and for a moment I swear I see something move where there's nothing. I settle deeper into the rubble. If they want me alive, they're going to have to work for it. And something tells me they're not just coming to kill a sniper, they're coming for me. The first sign of them was the dust, a faint swirl drifting across a collapsed intersection, curling unnaturally against the wind. I shifted the scope an inch, focusing through the shimmering heat. Vexari patrol 5 soldiers. Their armor wasn't metal, it pulsed and shifted like living chitin, threaded with veins that glowed faint blue. Each one moved in sync, heads tilting at the same moment, weapons raised at the same angles. Hive mind units. I tracked the lead. Distance, 1642 meters. Wind cross, 6 knots, quarter value from the east. Gravity pull negligible in Targos 7 light field. My finger settled on the trigger. One slow breath in, half out. The rifle coughed once, the sound swallowed by the ruins. Through the scope, I saw the lead soldier's head split open in a bloom of blue-white mist. He collapsed like a puppet with the strings cut. No cry, no confusion. Just an instantaneous ripple through the hive link. The others jerked slightly, then fanned out, movement still unnervingly precise. I shifted to the second, lined the reticle just above the clavicle joint, and squeezed. The armor buckled, the body fell, and the faint blue veins running through the chitin winked out like someone had snuffed a candle. The third was moving fast, bounding over rubble. I led the shot by half a second and sent a round through the base of its spine. It hit the ground in a twitching sprawl. That's when it happened. The last Vexari froze mid-step. Its head turned slowly, unnaturally, until the visor slit, thin and black, aligned perfectly with my position. There was no way. I was a mile out, buried in shadow, glass reflections minimized, heat profile cold. Not even core-grade sensors could pick me out from here. But it was looking right at me, and then the visor slit widened. Not physically, more like the armor peeled back, and beneath it I saw an eye. Not an alien eye, not even organic. It was a sphere of gold light spinning slowly, like an ancient mechanism winding up. I felt it, a pressure at the base of my skull, a crawling heat across my shoulders. Long shot, reposition. My commander's voice snapped me back. They're triangulating you. Move to fallback point Delta. I exhaled, disengaging from the scope. My legs ached from the prone position as I began the crawl back through the rubble. The light up in the ruins still hadn't moved. 10 meters behind my original nest, I spotted something carved into the wall, faint, almost erased by time. Not core markings. Not Vexari either. The symbols spiraled inward, angular and sharp, intersected by what looked like 7 tiny horns. I ran my glove over the grooves. They were warm. Long shot status. "I'm moving," I said, keeping my voice steady, but my eyes stayed on the symbol. I'd seen something like it once, not in combat, but in a classified intel briefing on archaeological anomalies. The kind the Corps pretended didn't exist. I reached the new overwatch point, set the rifle, scanned for any sign of the last soldier. Nothing, just empty streets and broken towers. Then my comms clicked twice, not standard Corps signal. A voice came through. It wasn't in Vexari. It wasn't in any language I knew. Deep, resonant, almost mechanical, like gears turning in the dark. It said my name. And then, silence. The orders came down in a locked channel, encrypted so heavily my HUD took 30 seconds just to unpack it. Priority 1 assignment: eliminate the Vexari Oracle. The briefing packet painted a picture I didn't like. The Oracle wasn't a commander in the traditional sense, no rank insignia, no field reports. It was a seer. An alien war shaman who could predict enemy troop movements before we made them. Every failed assault in the last 6 months had happened under its direction. Command wanted it dead, and they wanted me to do it. In the staging bay, I noticed the empty space around my kit rack. None of the other Corps soldiers were anywhere near me. Even my regular alien spotter, a Fenry scout named Arash, had asked to be reassigned without explanation. When I pressed, the squad's medic muttered something in trade tongue about ghost light. It took a second to click. In alien war culture, human snipers had a reputation not just as skilled marksmen, but as death spirits. The stories painted us as patient shades who could kill anything we could see, even through walls, even from the other side of a planet. Our bullets were said to call the soul away before the body even hit the ground. Normally, I'd shrug it off. It's good for the enemy to be scared, but this wasn't the enemy. These were my allies, refusing to even share a patrol with me. Back in my quarters, I stripped the rifle for a deep clean before the mission. Alien dust gets into everything, and the rifle's fusion core runs hot if you don't keep it immaculate. The chamber came apart smooth, no grit, no damage. I ran the microbrush through the barrel, checked the breach, and then froze. There, wedged deep in the action where no air, no dirt, no anything should ever get, was a single black feather. Tiny. Perfect. Matte like it swallowed light. It disintegrated the moment I touched it. I sat there for a full minute, staring at my gloves. This was a sealed rifle, cleaned after every mission, carried on my back under armor. There was no way a feather got in there. And yet, I pulled up the op window. The shot would have to be taken during the eclipse, the only time the Oracle traveled in the open. From my position, I'd have about 90 seconds to set the shot, exfiltrate, and disappear before Vexari reinforcements swarmed my nest. It was exactly the kind of mission I'd been bred for. But I couldn't shake the sensation that started hours before the eclipse, a kind of pressure behind my eyes, as if someone was pressing their thumb gently into the back of my skull. It wasn't pain. It was attention, like something already knew I was coming. The temple was older than the city it overlooked. I could tell by the way the stone had worn, not chipped by tools, but smoothed by centuries of wind, rain, and something else, something that had pressed against it from the inside. The Corps had tagged this ridge as a pre-collapse ruin in their maps. The Vexari called it the listening place. I didn't like either name. I crawled into position behind a half-collapsed arch. The barrel cleared the stone by a whisper. My back was against a wall carved with spirals, intersected by 7 tiny horns, the same pattern I'd found near my first nest. Up close, I saw the spirals weren't flat at all. They dipped inward, like shallow wells, smooth to the touch. I forced myself to ignore them and focused on the scope. Down in the valley, the oracle stood out like a candle in a cave. It was taller than the Vexari soldiers around it, draped in silk like membranes that shimmered green in the fractured sunlight. The bodyguards moved in perfect unison, their bio-armor flexing and twitching like living things. The oracle's head was bowed, but I could see the curve of its face, too symmetrical, too calm, distance 2117 meters. Wind negligible, elevation perfect. I settled my breathing, first knuckle on the trigger, heart rate steady. This was the kind of shot humans were built for. I exhaled and squeezed. The round cut the air like it owed me money. Through the scope, I watched it hit, a clean strike to the upper thorax, right where the alien physiology brief had marked its primary nerve cluster. The silk rippled. The oracle did not fall. Instead, it lifted its head, slow, deliberate, and turned directly toward me. Through 2 kilometers of fractured air, bio-armor, and alien atmosphere, it looked at me. And it smiled. My comms erupted in static, not white noise voices, layered, overlapping, speaking in a language that made my teeth ache. I caught my name in there, repeated over and over, climbing in pitch until it felt like they were chanting it from inside my own skull. I dropped my head, breaking eye contact through the scope, but the pressure didn't stop. It grew, the wall at my back warmed. I turned, the spiral glyphs were glowing faintly, a soft gold that pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. The air in the temple thickened, warping the edges of my vision. I looked back through the scope. The battlefield below was gone. Instead, I saw a sky that wasn't a sky, a vast, roiling expanse of wings. Feathers the size of cities overlapped endlessly, each one covered in unblinking eyes. Between them, flashes of fire and black oceans where the stars should be. A shape rose above it all faceless, but somehow staring right at me. I blinked hard and the vision snapped back to reality. The oracle was still standing, still smiling. The bodyguards hadn't moved, but the valley floor behind them was beginning to darken, as if shadow was bleeding upward from the ground. Long shot, Command's voice cut through the haze. Immediate extraction. All units converging on your position, they're moving too fast. Fall back to evac point Bravo. I tore the rifle from the bipod, slinging it across my back. My legs felt heavy, like the stone itself was holding me down. Down in the valley, the oracle lifted one long, fingered hand and pointed up at the ridge. The bodyguards began to move, not running, not charging, just walking. Every step perfectly in sync, every one of them looking straight at me. I turned and ran, the chant still echoing in my ears. The ridge was steeper going down than I'd remembered. Loose stone and ash slid under my boots, and the chants from the comms still rang in my skull like a migraine that breathed. The evac beacon pulsed faintly on my HUD, 2.3 clicks northwest. I made it maybe 200 meters before I saw them. The Vexari weren't moving like soldiers. They weren't even in formation. They were spaced in a rough half-circle, closing in on me, not firing, not running, just herding. Every time I shifted direction, the circle moved to block. I was being pushed, not chased. I ducked into the shattered shell of a building, thinking I could cut through an alley and break the pattern. That's when my visor lit up. Not a warning, not core command. Images. Earth. From orbit, I watched the oceans boil. City grids flared like embers in a windstorm. The continents split along fault lines and sank into roiling magma. Above it all, something vast and feathered blotted out the sun. I blinked hard, tried to clear the feed. It stayed. Then my perspective changed. I was on the ground, in a crowd, looking up as fire fell from the sky. The screams around me were human. My breathing hitched. I didn't know if it was real. I didn't know if it was happening right now, or if it had already happened, or if it was just for me. I shut down the visor feed entirely. It didn't help. The smell of burning salt water clung to my nose. I remembered something then from months ago in a debrief room lit by a single yellow bulb. We'd interrogated a captured Vexari scout, half dead and delirious from shrapnel. Most of its ranting was nonsense, but one thing stuck. It had looked right at me, the only human in the room, and said in broken Corps standard, "The last human marksman will break the seal of the Watcher." We'd all laughed it off. The Corps called it enemy superstition. Now, running through the ash with the Oracle's smile still burned into my retinas, I wasn't laughing. I reached a cross corridor and froze. 5 Vexari blocked the street. Their armor pulsed once. The glow in the veins shifted from blue to molten gold. Then their bodies began to twist. Joints bent the wrong way. Fingers split into talons. Their helmets cracked down the center and peeled open like shells, revealing nothing inside but smooth flesh. No eyes, and then from their backs wings erupted, not feathered, not insect. They were made of the same gold light I'd seen in the Oracle's gaze, each one a jagged blade of radiance. The wings didn't stop them from holding their rifles. One of them tilted its head at me, slow and curious, like a predator seeing a new kind of prey. I opened fire, dropping the first with a burst to the torso. It fell but didn't bleed. The body cracked apart like cooling glass, spilling light that faded before it hit the ground. The others didn't even flinch. They advanced, hurting me again. I ducked down another alley, only to find more of them closing in, their wings folding and unfolding in the gloom like breathing lungs. They weren't here to kill me. They were here to take me somewhere. I tried to break the line, sprinting for a gap, but one of them caught me mid-stride, its grip locking around my wrist like iron. I swung my rifle into its helmet. The impact sent a shock through my arm, but the thing didn't let go. Another grabbed my other arm. My boots scraped across stone as they dragged me backward. We passed through a collapsed doorway into a space that didn't match the exterior, too wide, too deep, the walls perfectly smooth and black. The light from their wings reflected off the stone, revealing carvings. Spirals, horns. The same as before, but deeper here, almost as if they'd been carved from the inside out. The air was hot and still. The chanting from my comms had stopped. For a moment, there was only the sound of my own breathing. Then the floor beneath me began to vibrate. They pulled me deeper into the dark. The chamber was so vast it swallowed the light from the Vexari's wings. They dragged me across smooth black stone toward a central pit, its edge lined with massive chains that rose into the air and disappeared into the dark above. Each chain glowed faintly, not with heat, but with something older, like the memory of fire. And then I saw it. Half decayed, half radiant, it towered above the pit's base. 6 wings stretched from its back, none of them the same, one bone, one metal, one of tattered feathers, one molten and shifting, and 2 made of pure light that bent the air around them. Its face was neither whole nor broken, a blur where features should be, shifting between a skull, a mask, and nothing at all. But when it looked at me, the gaze was sharp enough to cut marrow. The chains tightened as it shifted, the sound like mountains grinding together. When it spoke, it didn't use the air. The words were in my head. At last! The voice was perfect, human, calm, almost warm. You are the last child of fire, my weapon bred for the war they tried to erase, my eyes and my hands carried in flesh. I forced myself to stand, even with 2 of the winged Vexari gripping my arms. Not your anything. You are the perfect vessel. It stepped forward, or seemed to. The chains held, but the air between us shortened. I could see the rot in its limbs, the flicker of its light through cracks in its form. The blood remembers. In you it is pure. Take me into you and we will burn the galaxy clean, or refuse and end here. I clenched my jaw. My whole life I'd been a weapon in the Corps, in every war I'd fought. But this thing wasn't offering purpose. It was offering ownership. I shook my head. Humans choose their wars. For the first time it was silent. Then, slowly, it laughed, the sound like rolling thunder mixed with breaking glass. Then you choose extinction. The Vexari moved to drag me forward. I didn't fight them. Not yet. I waited until I was close enough to feel the heat from its molten wing, until the chains above rattled with strain. Then I reached under my armor and pulled the pulse charge from its hidden sling. The entity's blur face tilted, curious. I thumbed the arming stud. Not today! The blast tore upward, ripping the nearest chain loose and shattering a section of the chamber ceiling. Black stone crashed down like meteors, crushing two of the Vexari instantly. The light from the entity flared white-hot. I felt it burn through my helmet, through my skull. My left eye went blind in an instant, the world narrowing to a smear of pain and static. I hit the ground hard, half deaf, half blind, crawling toward a gap in the rubble. Behind me, I heard the chains groan, felt the vibration of something massive being dragged back into place. You cannot bury me forever. I didn't look back. I dragged myself through the breach into a tunnel that sloped upward, cold air hitting my face for the first time in what felt like hours. I didn't stop until I saw daylight. The Corps gunship dropped out of the haze 20 minutes after I cleared the ridge. I didn't remember calling it in. A medic in a sealed suit hauled me aboard, clamping a pressure patch over the crater where my left eye used to be. They didn't ask what happened. I didn't volunteer. When Command asked for my report, I gave them the sanitized version, Oracle neutralized, extraction under fire, heavy enemy casualties. No mention of the chamber. No mention of the thing chained beneath the stone. They bought it or pretended to. They shipped me back to a carrier station for recovery. Weeks in a white room with filtered air and cold food. The Corps surgeons offered me a prosthetic eye. I told them no. I didn't want any more machinery in me than absolutely necessary. The nightmares started while I was still in the med bay. Not the usual kind, not firefights or dead teammates. Wings, always wings. Sometimes 6, sometimes more, sometimes made of feathers, sometimes of light so bright it burned the dream away. They never attacked me, they just waited. When I was awake, I started noticing things in the periphery, movement in corners where there was nothing, shadows that didn't belong to anyone in the room. My shooting range scores went up. Even without the eye, my grouping was tighter than it had ever been. I could feel the wind in an enclosed bay. I could read bullet drop without a calculator. It scared me more than it impressed me. A month later, Command summoned me to the ops deck for a new briefing. The room was crowded, pilots, ground teams, tacticians. A live feed from a frontline unit flickered on the main display, a battle in a desert canyon, Vexari against a joint Corps squad. The helmet cams cycled between soldiers as they moved through the rocks, exchanging fire. Then, one feed froze. A Vexari soldier had stopped mid-fight. It turned slowly, looking straight into the lens. And it smiled. Not a grin. Not a snarl. The same knowing curve I'd seen on the Oracle's face right before the shot. The image stuttered, pixelated, and for half a second I swore I saw golden light leaking from the visor slit. When the feed snapped back, the Vexari had moved on. Nobody else in the room seemed to notice. But I did. I didn't hear the rest of the briefing. I was too busy thinking about the voice in the chamber, the chains, the promise that I couldn't bury it forever. And as I left the ops deck, I caught my reflection in the viewport. For a heartbeat, there was a glow behind my remaining eye. They're still looking for me.